HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Having It All, a podcast that explores the question, can we really have it all in life? My name is Matthew Bivens, and I believe that having it all means viewing life through a lens of abundance and love. You see, it's not about having anything, but instead about how we experience ourselves, other people, and life itself. In this podcast, my guests and I explore what having it all and creating your ideal life actually look like. We talk about the joy and contentment when you feel like you have it all, however it is that you define it. And we also talk about the profound and sometimes uncomfortable situations that you frequently must go through in order to create that ideal life. My goal with this podcast is that you walk away from each episode with new lessons that you can apply to your life, as well as real, raw stories of what having it all can look like. I want to spark the flame in your mind that asks, what does it look like to have it all in my life? So, with that, join me in having it all. Have you struggled to figure out your passion and become frustrated when pursuing your passion doesn't lead to the fulfilling lifestyle you thought it would? In this conversation, Omar Zenhom talks to me about how pursuing your passion is actually not the smart thing to do. He shares what he has learned through years of teaching and coaching people on how to leverage their strengths to add value to the world. I really love this conversation because Omar brings a new perspective, one that I hadn't heard before, to the conversation around pursuing passions. So if you're out there listening and the pursuit of your passion is something you're currently embarking on or something you're thinking about embarking on, then this is definitely a conversation you want to pay attention to. So with that, let's dive right in. Today, I am super excited to be talking with Omar Zenhom. Omar is an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. He was an educator and a university manager for 13 years, where he really got an inside look at how the higher education system works or doesn't work. He spent a semester pursuing his MBA before dropping out to put those resources and time into building his own business. And today, Omar is the co-founder of the $100 MBA, where he's on a mission to revolutionize business education. So he is a man passionate about helping people take the jump into pursuing their entrepreneurship dreams. So Omar, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here, Matthew. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. And I always like to start off my conversations with this question. And the question is, how are you being today, Omar?
I'm being well. I feel good. Got up in the morning and decided to do some exercise, even though it was my off day. Just had a good start, so I feel good.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I love asking this question, how are you being, instead of how are you doing? Because I think that so often we get caught up in the doing. We got to do this and that. And we don't reflect on who we are being or who we are becoming in the process. So that's why I ask.
I like that.
Cool. All right. So I want to talk first a little bit about your story, because I think it's a really interesting one that has many moments of courage in it. So, Omar, will you briefly share your story with us?
Sure. I went to college to become a teacher. I grew up in a family. My parents are Egyptian. They moved to America in the early 60s. I was born and raised in New York. And growing up, I saw my dad, who spent most of his time in sales. And he was actually in car sales, which is probably very notorious when it comes to sales. But he was very good at it and became a manager and took over the dealership. And, so I kind of grew up in that household where I saw sales as a very unstable kind of profession. One summer we're having, our summer vacations at Disney World. The next it's in the backyard. So growing up, I just thought I wanted something stable that I can have a good life. I didn't want to become a doctor, didn't want to go to the military. So I decided to become a teacher. I thought being a teacher would be appealing. So I graduated and got my master's as well in education, and became a high school teacher. Taught English as a second language. I taught students that were coming in, foreign students that needed to learn English at the level so they can be able to take the regular courses in English. And I then moved on to the university level. I became a middle manager, became a head of department, a teacher trainer, and I wrote curriculum. That's kind of what my journey was in education. I kind of moved up in management and moved up in terms of the level of education I was teaching. But along the way, I was very kind of intrigued with the internet. I was very intrigued about entrepreneurship, and I didn't see it as entrepreneurship at the time. I just saw it as, hey, let me give this a try, more like an experiment. I started off with just maybe trying to sell things on eBay. Then I turned it into an eBay store, and then I built some side businesses on the side. And this is early on. We're talking about 2000, really, when I got started, and there was not a lot of tools that are out there now. 16 years later, which are great. There was no PayPal, for crying out loud. There's no WordPress. But I managed, and I learned a lot of things the hard way. And I, sought out a lot of guidance in books, in business books that I really, I read a lot of them. Some of them were absolute garbage, and some of them were great, and some were in between as well. So along the way, I kind of built my confidence as an entrepreneur and as a business builder. I went from business to business, trying different things. Also, just trying to figure out what kind of entrepreneur I want to be. What do I actually want to build?
HelloFresh takes the guesswork and the extra hassle out of planning and preparing delicious meals for dinner. America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh gives you over 40 recipes to choose from each week. And then your farm-fresh, pre-portioned seasonal ingredients arrive at your doorstep with simple instructions to help you feel like the master chef of your kitchen. And did you know that HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout? HelloFresh has been an awesome addition to our household's dinner routine. We all get involved and cook together, following the pictured step-by-step instructions. It's a fun quality time, and the meals are delicious. Give it a try and see for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, to get 50% off plus free shipping, go to HelloFresh.com/50havingitall and use code 50havingitall.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
At some point during my career in education, I decided I wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur. I wanted to dedicate my energies elsewhere. And a lot of it had to do with my disappointment in the educational system globally. It's not a very clear or clean picture. And I thought if I dedicated my efforts elsewhere or efforts in my own thing, I would probably do a lot better. And that's when I left education and became a full-time entrepreneur. And shortly after, created the $100 MBA, which is our podcast, and as well as our online program, which is exactly what it sounds like, a $100 MBA education.
Oh, that's powerful. So I was listening to your podcast, and that's how I first got wind of you, got introduced to what you do. And I imagine while you're talking to these entrepreneurs and you're working with them, that you learn and hear about people's passions and their passions for doing what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like somewhere in your journey, you did something, sparked in you something around that education. Was that always a passion of yours? I mean, you talked about how you went into pursuing your degree in education because you didn't want to do this, you didn't want to do that. But was there something around that you just felt like, as a little kid, I was always teaching people, I was always leading?
That's a good question. I'm going to go a little against the grain here. Maybe it's not what you're used to, or maybe your listeners are used to, but I'm not a big believer of trying to pursue your passion. I'm not a big believer of that, just because I feel like that's very internal. It's not very external. What I mean by that is I really think people would be a lot more happy, a lot more successful if they really pursued what they are innately gifted at, what they really find easy doing, what they're good at. If a lot of people are looking for starting a business, hey, what should I start my business on, and what do I love doing every day? Well, I love watching SportsCenter, but I can't make a business out of that. Like whatever. But the point is that you really should focus on how can you add value to the world. What can you specifically add value in the world? And the reason why I believe we have any success with the $100 MBA show or the program or even on Webinar Ninja or software is that I leverage my strengths. I believe I'm a good teacher. I have a lot of experience in that, and it comes naturally to me, something that I'm very good at. And I was able to excel in my teaching career. One of the things I always say is one of the hardest things for me to leave education was I believe it's very hard to quit something you're good at. I was very good. I was a rock star in my career. I was leading. I was a manager of over 33 teachers that were twice my age at the age of 25. So there's no reason for me to change a career. I'm rocking it, right? So for me, I believe that I just decided to leverage that experience and those skills I had and use it in my business. And that's why we have a podcast that teaches. It's a daily 10-minute podcast rather than interview podcast, which is not my strength. Why would I do that? So I'm really a believer of pursuing things that you believe you can add value in. What are some things that you can add value in the world? A lot of people, they want to make a huge shift when they go into entrepreneurship. They have a career in a certain area, and then they say, hey, they're like a programmer, and they say, I want to be a life coach now. Well, why don't you coach programmers to be better freelancers? You have a lot of skills in that. You've been through that. You can still be an entrepreneur, but don't throw away all that experience and those skills that you have. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
It's interesting you say that, because I can apply that to myself, right? I worked in digital marketing for 6 years, and it was something that I worked at, and I grew my skills and I learned new things. And even as I've wanted to shift into other things, I found that some of those other things still involved some components of digital marketing, because
right.
I became good at it. I became successful at that. And so as you were talking, I'm like, yeah, that's interesting, because your response to that question, around passions, was, I think, a little bit against the grain. And I'm glad you said it the way you did, because I think that there are people out there who, when they think about what they're passionate about, they might have an answer like you said. I'm passionate about, watching SportsCenter. I'm passionate about playing video games, whatever it is. But then they neglect those things that they're just innately talented, like they're gifted, like they're gifts, and they don't take into consideration what their gifts are, because they're completely pursuing their passion. Now, I do have a follow-up question for you, because, I think we've seen those Venn diagrams with the circles that overlap, and the area where you're passionate about and the things that you're gifted in, and the area where you can really contribute value. Do you believe that it's worthwhile trying to find something at the intersection of all of those places and just continuing to pursue that, or kind of like what I think you were saying. Go for the things that where you can contribute a massive amount of value and that you're already good at, even if it's not completely in line with your passion. What would you say to somebody who presented you with that scenario? Like, I want to go for my passion no matter what.
I would say that if you ask anybody who's been an entrepreneur for a while, they'll give you a similar answer to this, that it's not binary. It's not you need to choose now and that's what it is for the rest of your life, or find the passion intersection. What I'm saying is just start with what you're good at, your strength, where you have a competitive advantage. Business is tough. It's a lot of competition out there. And if you want a competitive advantage, you got to use your strengths. So start with that, and you'll figure your way out as you start getting some wins and you have success as an entrepreneur. First, you got to learn how to be an entrepreneur, how to have a profitable business. That's really what's important. Then how to mold your business so you're enjoying it and it's a part of your passion and all that stuff. If it's a given for you, if you found that perfect intersection, it's clear as day, and go for it. I'm not saying now go for it, but what I'm saying is that don't spend too much time worrying about that. A lot of people, they don't start because they're like, it's not the thing. It's not that perfect passion match with my strengths. And, I'll put it on the back burner.
Yeah.
I say you're not going to figure it out. It's not a light bulb moment. You have to figure it out through experience, because it's very sexy. It's very romantic when you're just thinking about it. But when you actually do it and you actually build that business around whatever you're doing, your strengths and things like that, you start to realize, I thought I really liked this, but maybe it's not what it turned out to be. You might start serving people that you don't enjoy spending time with. That's not the customer base you want to spend time with. So it's something that you have to. It's an evolution. You have to evolve into what you want to be, rather than choose it and then just go down that path.
And I like what you said. Just get started. Get started, and then things will evolve, and things. You tip over that first domino, and then the rest of the things begin falling. And that's something that I've personally experienced, where I've experienced the massive amount of change and transformation in my life always happens in a moment when I decide just to get started. Even if you don't know, I don't know where I'm going, just get started and things happen. Awesome. Well, I'm going to jump back. I have this list of questions, which, we talked about before we hit record. And I love when the conversation kind of goes off, because it means we're really getting to some meaty stuff. But I do want to hop back into my questions. So for the context of this show, having it all means having an abundant, loving life. I'm curious what having it all means to you.
I know that I thought about this question for a bit, and I don't mean to be difficult at all, but I'm going to change it a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't believe you can have it all. That's not just my personal belief. I do believe that you should strive to be content and to be happy and to be satisfied and to have gratitude. That's a different kind of goal. But because you could be content and you could be at peace with your life and not have it all. And I say that because I don't really believe having it all is a reasonable goal to achieve, because that's perfection. And I really believe that sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice in order for you to, be able to make any kind of difference in a certain area in your life. And that could be your business. I can't say I have it all because I intentionally didn't choose that. I intentionally said, no, I don't want to have it all. I want to have it really good in this area. And these little areas over here, which really don't really mean a lot to me, I'm going to let go of. So, for example, I don't have hundreds of friends. I'm not very, I don't have like so many people that I'm in touch with constantly, right? Because I personally can't dedicate that time. Why? Because I decided I want to dedicate my time to building my business and the legacy that I want to leave behind. That's something that's very important to me, right? So instead, I sacrifice. I say, I'm going to have a small group of friends, but I have deep, relationships with them.
Yeah.
And I can probably count them on, 2 hands. That's it. And these people are like my friends I can rely on. I can call anytime and enjoy their time. And I can give them their right as my friend, which is my time and my consideration. And when they need my help, I'm there for them. And I can't do that if I have thousands of friends. So you may say I don't have it all in the friendship department, but I'm okay with that, because I know that the sacrifice for that is dedication to what I want to build, because I need that time to be able to do that. And I'm going to give an example of this, and I love this example because I wrote a blog post about it because I resonated so strongly with it. And it's Ahmad Rashad was interviewing Kobe Bryant about his career in basketball. And they say, hey, compared to other greats, you are not very, social. You're not going out with the guys on the team that much. You're not having parties. You were doing like every single commercial that was offered to you. Do you have any regrets? And he says, no, because I know in order for me to be a master at my craft, I have to dedicate a certain amount of time. And I wasn't willing to let go of that goal and that pursuit of mastery in order for me to hang out or do other things. That's just a choice he made, and everybody's got to make a choice. So for me, I don't know if having it all is really that smart.
That was a great answer, and I'm happy that you answered the way you did and kind of changed the question around. Two of the things I took from your response were, one, it's important to have priorities, because what I heard you say was that you knew in your world are your priorities. And you knew that you were going to put a good amount of energy and effort into your priorities, and that there would be, sacrifice. Some of the other things that were lower on your list may not get as much attention. And so I think that, it is incredibly important for people to understand what are their priorities to them. And I also heard you talk about your bigger why. So like your big mission, and, you mentioned wanting to leave a legacy. And so I think that, people can answer the question having it all however they want. But I absolutely agree with you that it's important to understand what is important to you and really what you're playing for.
Right.
That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about something I think that a lot of entrepreneurs sort of wrestle with, or at least think about at some point in time. And this is like this idea of a work-life balance. And there's folks who say that there's no such thing as a work-life balance. It's a bunch of crap. There's other people that just swear up and down and say you got to be pursuing this work-life balance. What are your opinions on the work-life balance?
Wow, these are good questions. I have to say. Well, I don't believe I can. I don't think it's really practical to separate life from work, especially as an entrepreneur. I think that there's nothing wrong with you. Hanging out with friends and talking about business, or talking about, people that say, hey, let's not talk about work because we're hanging out now. That's because they hate work, and I don't think that is necessarily true for everybody. So I think you can mix the two. But in terms of balance, I think it's important for you to be balanced when it comes to giving your body its right, meaning its right sleep, the right nutrition, the right, exercise. And that's something that I've been really working on this past year. And because, when you're building a business, when you're building, something that requires a lot of time, sometimes your passion and your drive and your commitment will overtake certain areas in your life. And that's good sometimes. Sometimes you got to have that kind of hunger. But in the long run, you need to prioritize health and wellness. Because in the long run, it's going to help you. Because at the end of the day, your body you're the machine behind the business. So you need to make sure you're in top shape. So in that regard, I do believe it's really good to have a routine. It's good to have a schedule. Nutrition. I'm actually a big fan of healthy, ready-made meals. So there are a lot of companies now that are creating very healthy, planned meals for you. They'll sit and consult with you. And they'll make sure that you get the right nutrition. They're healthy, organic meals that get delivered to your house, already made. You just heat them up. And the reason why I think that's a pretty good idea is because, one, a lot of people think this stuff is expensive, but it's actually not. Yeah. Because when you total it up, it's probably going to total up as the same or maybe even less than your grocery bill, because you're buying snacks, you're buying things that you need to put together so you can make a dinner or whatever it is. And obviously this depends on, if you're single, if you're married, if you have kids, all that stuff is different. But, and it also, for me, it's just like, it saves time. It saves time for you to think about it, and you make sure you get the right nutrition that you need. So I think you need to prioritize some of these things and think about them so they're kind of done with and dealt with. But also, I believe in breaks. I think breaks are very, very important. Nicole and I, Nicole, who's my wife and my business partner, she and I are really, really committed to making sure we have the right amount of breaks. And when I say breaks, we tried to take some time off, like a reasonable amount, like 5 days to a week every 8 weeks. And I know that sounds like, oh, that's a lot of breaks, but it's like, well, we work very hard. We work very hard during those 8 weeks. And I think the break is not only just so we can relax, but it's also a time for us to reflect and discuss, okay, what have we done this last 8 weeks? Where are we going? Realign. Is this in the right direction? Sometimes we work for a year, and then we take a break, and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm in a place I didn't really expect to be. I need to, course correct. So it's a good time for you just to reevaluate as well and recenter. I like to get some reading done, and I always say I get my best ideas when I'm on vacation. So when your mind steps away from it a bit, it's a good thing. So that's kind of my practice of work-life balance.
Oh, I love that. It reminded me of, I think it was an article I read where there was a guy who owned a design firm, and I think he would work for 5 years, and on the 6th year, he would take a 1-year sabbatical. He would take a break. Yeah. He would take a break from work and not do anything related to work for a year. But inevitably, during that time, during that break, is when his ideas and the real genius would flow, because like you said, he wasn't working in the business. He wasn't going. And then in that year, he would come up with all the ideas that his firm would do for the next 5 years. And so what I heard you say was that you just have taken that and really made the time frames smaller. So every 8 weeks, you're taking a few days off and you're just centering yourself, collecting your thoughts. I think that's a powerful habit.
Yeah, I mean, and it also, it's a good practice if you're trying to grow your business and you're trying to delegate and say, hey, will my business run if I delegate these tasks to certain people when I'm gone? It's a good chance for you to test that out and see if your business will or will not collapse without you. So it's a good way to kind of test the growth of your business.
Now, let's stay on this topic of habits, because I think habit formation is something that I'm incredibly interested in myself. I always like trying to pick up new, healthy, empowering habits and see which other ones I can drop. So you've taught a lot of people. You've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs with $100 MBA. Are there any sort of success habits that you just keep seeing again and again, sort of like patterns that successful people do these types of things that you can talk about?
A couple of things. I mean, they're not daily habits, but they're habits in what they do in business. So, For example, I find that when they start a business idea or a product idea within their business, they never start with version 10. A lot of us as new entrepreneurs, we think of a business idea or a new product, and the vision in our head is what it looks like a few years down the road. We think of version 10, right? And we never want to start on version 1. We never want to actually put it out in the world with version 1. And all successful entrepreneurs, they have a version 1. They have a beta. They have something where it's very minimal. It's not what they want. It's not the dream product, but it's something it has the same DNA. It's starting out there. It's on that timeline. And what happens is that they're able to introduce it to the world, to get feedback, that you're able to improve it, perfect it, iterate, and version 2 comes along, then 3, then 4. Then down the line, a few years down the road, that image that they had in their head of that picture doesn't match it anymore. In fact, it's much better because they started and they're able to, evolve it through feedback from the actual users and customers. A lot of people don't realize that it doesn't matter what you think. I mean, that's something that I always tell people. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you think is a brilliant idea or this product is fantastic. You're not the customer. You can't sustain a business with just you being the customer.
Yeah.
Right? What matters is the other people, regardless if you are the majority of your target market, regardless if you agree with what they want or not, that's what's going to make or break your business. You may be like, well, I don't think that feature is really that useful, but they want it. So what are you going to do? Not give it to them and not make sales? Like that you have to get real sometimes. So I think a good habit is to realize I got to start minimal viable. A lot of people, they say, you know what? I want to write a book. What I want to do is I want to publish this thing. I want to have it on bookshelves, and I want it to be a bestseller. I'm going to start with a Kickstarter. I'm going to get everybody involved. And to me, that's not the smartest approach. The smartest approach is for you to start with a minimal viable idea, which is a blog post. You just write a blog post on the topic, see if you get any traction, any feedback, share it as much as possible. If you can't get people to read that blog post, they're not going to read a book.
Yeah.
Right? If you can't get people engaged and say, I want more, I want to learn more, if you can't get that to be on the top of, at least the first page of Google for those keywords of whatever you're talking about, it's not a topic people want to hear about. So why are you exerting all this effort trying to build version 10 when version 1 hasn't even existed yet? So that's a good habit I like to share.
And that actually relates back to what we were talking about earlier with the passions and just taking action, just doing things, and you will, you continue to move forward, and eventually you get to version 10, and version 10 may not look at all what like your original dream was, but it's because it's evolved and hopefully as you've iterated and improved along the way.
I understand why this happens. I mean, version 1 doesn't look that cool. I get it, but point is that version 1 allows the success to happen in version 2 and version 3. And it also minimizes risk. I talk about this on the show all the time. You want to minimize risk as much as possible in your business. There's a lot less expenses for you to build version 1, whatever that version 1 is, whether that's an ebook or a product or a piece of software or a t-shirt. If you want to create a clothing line of graphic tees and you can't sell 5 t-shirts to your closest friends, you can't sell it, say, hey, this t-shirt's $30, give me $30 right now, then you don't have a business. It's not going to sell with the hundreds of t-shirts or thousands of t-shirts. What makes you think that you could sell it if you can't sell it to 5 people? So it's just a harsh reality. I don't mean to be harsh or be abrasive. And I actually want to say this out of love because I want you to be able to succeed, because you want to be able to go all in on something that works. So you try things, you experiment, and you do a whole bunch of version 1s until you nail that thing where it says, oh, this thing really is resonating with people. Let me create a version 2, a version 3, rather than spending 2 years building something that people don't want.
I think it's a great message for people who are out there with the version 10 in their heads right now and are, like they're just in love with the sexy version of what it is and are afraid to take that first step.
Yeah.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Well, let's talk about fears a little bit. Because for me, one of the most admirable traits of entrepreneurs is their ability to step into the unknown and to face their fears. And I think these types of lessons aren't, like this conversation about fears doesn't just apply to entrepreneurs. It really applies to everyone. So with you, you're a multi-time entrepreneur, so I know that you've faced your fair share of fears. What is the biggest fear that you've faced along your journey to where you are today?
Wow. So, it's natural to be afraid or to have doubts or to, worry. The beauty about anything in life is that if you do it enough times, you start to gain confidence. You start to realize, that fear is going to be there, but it doesn't stop you from moving forward as much as it did before. So I think that's good just to know conceptually that if you have fear, that's fine, that's normal, and you're on the path. That's what everybody experiences. But for me, the biggest fear, I probably would say, I'm not afraid if people are going to respond to things or if they want things, because I do adopt this model of the minimal viable before I actually launch something huge. But I'm also just kind of afraid that I'm not evolving enough. I want to be able to keep on learning and growing. Sometimes you have to balance building your business growth and your own self-development. So I'm always trying to have some sort of time where I get to learn and grow, even if that means spending 30 minutes a day reading a book. That will just change my mind about something. Sometimes I just read books that on the cover, on the review, or just on first glance, I'm like, this is bull crap. I don't want to read this book. This is not my style. This is too scammy. This is too whatever. And I'll read it anyway because I want to challenge myself and say, hey, can I learn something from this? Even if I don't like the context. Maybe there's a nugget in there that I could be like, you know what? I can use it in a different way.
Yeah.
Maybe not in this way, but that's an insight I can use. So that's my challenge. I always try to evolve. Of course, every time you are faced with a challenge in business, like difficulty, things you have to overcome, that's something that you're growing. That's something that helps you grow. But I'm always trying to evolve and grow as an entrepreneur and open my mind a little bit and realize, I find that as the years go by, I find good in everything. I find there's something I can learn in everything. Before maybe I would say, no, that's not my style. I don't want to read that article or watch that video.
Are there any self-development books that you're reading right now?
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of business types of books, self-development books. One of the books that I read recently that I highly recommend anybody that is growing a business, is having challenges, that is really kind of going through that time where you're maybe having some doubt. And that book is called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday is one of the best authors I've seen in nonfiction, just because he's very well researched. He researches his books very well. He's very well written. He takes the time to actually develop a great delivery method of his message. And it's really hard to read a book after you read one of his books because it's like, it's not well written like, Ryan's. But I got to give it up to him. He's a young guy and he writes. That book was very good. It was recommended to me and he told me, you got to read this book. And I read it and it really does help you understand what it really takes in order for you to reach the success that you have in your mind.
Now, is this the same Ryan Holiday that you recently interviewed?
I didn't interview him. Yeah,
you featured him or the book on the podcast.
Yeah, so I also did another book that we do these must-read episodes on the Hunter MBA show, where I talk about a book that I read, and that's Growth Hacker Marketing. That's another book that he wrote that I really enjoyed.
Okay, yeah, that's where I saw his name on your podcast. Awesome, wonderful, I love that. So you've been on this journey, this journey of your life, and going from an educator to teacher to working in the higher up in the university to becoming an entrepreneur, husband. What are some things that you've learned about yourself along this journey that you didn't know about yourself before?
I think, the things I learned, sometimes I try to amend. I try to say, hey, maybe I need to change those things. I'm a very opinionated guy. Like I have very firm beliefs or firm things that I believe in or how I feel about certain ways. But over the years, I've learned that, there is a lot of room for you to learn from other people and change, or maybe, make some exceptions. It's funny because a good friend of mine here, Jason Zook, who's the founder of Teachery and a whole bunch of other stuff, Jason Zook and his girlfriend, Caroline, they live very close to us and we spend a lot of time together. And me and Caroline often will have discussions and I'll disagree with her, and then she'll say something to me and I'll listen to it for a bit. And then I'll just say, you know what? That's a good point. I can't argue that point. That's a sound point. And I have to change my opinion on this topic because otherwise I'm seeking out other than the truth. I'm seeking out other than what is right and wrong and what I believe in. I'm just being stubborn and I'm letting my ego take over.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've learned about myself that, I do have strong opinions, but, if I want to evolve as a human being, if I want to become a better person, a better everything, I need to be, open to changing my opinions in order to, to maybe get to a better opinion or get to somewhere that's going to lead me to a better situation. So for me, that's something I've learned about myself. I also learned about myself is that, I can't expect other people to have the same expectations that I do or the same standards as I do in different areas. I may be willing to do a certain amount of things or work or dedication. Some people don't, so, and I can't expect that from everybody. And that's fair enough. That's fair.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you're in your world and you're building, like, why doesn't this person do this? I can't believe this is such common sense. No, everybody's different. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses, and some people don't see things that are that seem obvious to you. So that's something that I've learned about myself as well.
Oh, that's powerful. I completely relate with you on that first point of being able to look at other people's perspectives and wear on their beliefs to see how they fit. And for me, humility has been something that I've learned along my recent journey, is just working on my own humility and humbling myself. And so I think that's just a powerful piece of advice.
Thanks, man.
So we're almost at the end of this conversation, Omar. This has really flown by for me. It's funny. I looked down at the timer. I'm like, holy crap, we've already passed 30 minutes. I have one more question for you, and it is one of those questions where you might be like, ugh, he's asking these big old questions to me again. But we'll see. What is your big why in life, Omar?
Why I do things. Why.
Your big, why you get up. The big purpose, the big reason for it all for you.
I believe that I'm a big guy that believes that in order for you to be significant in this world, whatever you believe in, whether you believe in God, you don't believe in God, whatever your belief system is, I do believe that we all can agree that you should leave this world in a better state in a little way. Somehow. You got to contribute somehow. Otherwise, you're irrelevant. Otherwise, you have no significance, in my opinion. I know that sounds harsh, but, if you are just here to kind of just spend time and just pass away and that's it, and you don't really do anything, I don't believe that you actually add value to the world, and I think we all should strive to add value in some way. So, I get up because I hope in some way that I'm adding value to the world, and when I'm gone, that there's something left behind that can help people out, whether that's something as simple as podcast episodes where people can, listen to every day and get inspiration, be able to know exactly what to do to build a business, and change their life and change who they are and be able to see things differently. Or it could be as significant as, as like helping people out in my own little space or my own little life and family. And I don't believe that and enjoying your life and doing it and making money are mutually exclusive. You can enjoy your life and you can be wealthy and you can do all that stuff and still make a difference. A lot of people, I saw something on Facebook recently that really got me upset. And it was, it was Mark Zuckerberg, and there was a post about Mark Zuckerberg, giving X amount of, millions of dollars to charity, and they were saying, well, he makes all this money anyway. Who cares? This is insignificant, right? So my first reaction was two things. One, well, when's the last time you gave to charity? When's have you given the same ratio of money? Like if he gave, $500 million to charity, I think it was like $300 million or something like that. $300 million to charity, according to his own net worth, what's the ratio for you? Is that, $800? Is that $2,000 for you? When's the last time you donated $2,000?
Yeah.
Like think about that. Like he is giving. Are you giving? Right. Second thing, I believe that all entrepreneurs are philanthropists. I believe that, regardless if it's a small mom and pop pizzeria down the street or a person that is working as a solopreneur on the internet, I believe that all entrepreneurs are philanthropists. Why? Because one, they add value to the world. They're creating something. They're adding something to the world. Two, a lot of them employ people. They give them a chance to learn and grow and become something and have a life. Work is a big part of life. And give them a salary, obviously, and that money goes to helping their family, helping themselves, helping them enjoy their life. They created the system in order for that to happen, which is their business. So most people don't do that. Most people, it's very self-serving. They go to a job, they get paid. I'm not hating on people that have a job, because I believe that's very noble, and entrepreneurship is not for everybody, meaning that, people are just better off being a doctor, a lawyer, and that's their calling, that's their profession, and we need that. Those people are very important in our society. But at the same time, if you think about it, they might be helping people out in their profession, but a lot of ways the entrepreneur is really influencing society in a larger scale. So I'm very much against this idea of entrepreneurship is all about money, and people who make the more money they make, the less they care about the world. That's ridiculous. That's just, the math doesn't even make sense. But for me, that's kind of what I think of my life, and why I get up in the morning is that I want to make a difference. I want to add value in some way. I want to be able to influence people in some way, and hopefully I do that.
I love that. I like that your mission is to add value. I think that a lot of people might believe or say to themselves that that's what they're all about, but then you back it up and you say at the end of the day, what value are you actually adding? And your perspective on entrepreneurship, the lens through which you look through entrepreneurship is a great one. It's one that I haven't heard before, and I've been an entrepreneur myself, worked with entrepreneurs. I went to school. My business program was all about entrepreneurship, but I never heard someone talk about entrepreneurship as philanthropy in and of itself, because of what entrepreneurs are doing, creating something new, providing value, creating jobs. I love that. And I think there's people out there listening who are like, wow, okay, my why for why I'm an entrepreneur just got a little bit bigger by hearing that.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as we come to a close here, Omar, is there anything that you would like to inform our listeners about, talk about, promote?
What I always say is that if you're thinking about starting something for yourself, you want to start a business, you're thinking about business, you're thinking about doing something small, whatever it is, I always tell people my best resource, or the best way you could start, is to subscribe to the $100 MBA Show. The $100 MBA Show is a daily 10-minute business podcast on iTunes. We won Best of iTunes in 2014, and we have over 50,000 daily listeners. So we've helped a lot of people, and I would love to help you in any way, and it's completely free. There is nothing for you to buy. And in fact, on the show, we give you all this free stuff, free courses, all that stuff. And if you do want to buy later on, that's fine, but you don't have to. We have reviews on iTunes that people said, I've built my business just listening to the show.
Wow.
So that's kind of my only call to action. If you're thinking about getting started, it's a great way to get started. It's easy, 10-minute lessons every single day. And I purposely make it 10 minutes because I want you to take action on that small little nugget every day so you can build upon it the next day.
That's awesome. And so they can just go to iTunes, type in $100 MBA, and your show will pop up.
There you go. Any kind of podcasting app, they could find it.
Perfect. And if they wanted to learn more about you and what you do online, where can they go?
Sure. Our website is 100mba.net, and there's a plethora of free goodies there. We have free courses, free guides, blog post publishes every week, and all our episodes are there as well. If you're interested in doing webinars, we have a software company called webinarninja.co. We also have a free 7-day video course on how to plan and launch your first webinar over there. So if there's something you've been thinking about, we'd love to help you out in that area over at Webinar Ninja.
That is awesome. And I'll be putting links to all of that in the show notes. So if you're listening out there and you're by a computer, just check out the show notes and you'll see links to all of Omar's awesome resources. So Omar, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate you carving out some time to come hang out with me and just share your genius and leave us with all these amazing nuggets. So thank you so much.
You're too kind, Matthew. Thank you. I enjoyed the time as well. And I hope in any way that I've helped your audience in some way.
Awesome.
2 quick things before you leave. First, did you know that the Having It All podcast is a part of the Fireside Network? Yep, that's right. We are one of the shows that calls Fireside Network home. That means if you ever want to listen to a show outside of iTunes or Stitcher or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, all you have to do is visit www.firesidernetwork.com/havingitall. From there, you can access all of the episodes, see the show notes, learn about my guests, and more. Second, we also have a standalone website for Having It All, where you can learn about me, discover how we further our mission at Having It All, and pick up some free content around creating your ideal life and just experiencing life more powerfully. You can find that at www.havingitall.co. Again, that's www.havingitall.co. Thanks again for listening to the show. Here's to you having it all.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.